Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about the race realism debate that's been going on in the YouTube community for the last week or so, sparked by a supposedly racist video by RageAfterStorm called Race is Real, which mostly talks about racism, Africa, and the slave trade. Well, this race is real stuff got really touchy for people when she brings up average IQs being lower for black people. Apparently people are cool with all the positive attributes in their race like being taller, stronger, and more athletic. People will easily admit blacks are more likely to be basketball players, but if you even mention that they're also lower IQ on average, it starts a whole shitstorm. Or maybe I should say, it starts a whole rage after shitstorm. But I digress.
And words like these all lie under the same hood. They are used to force people to ignore why we might feel uneasy about people that look or are a little bit different.
Today we're going to briefly go over this drama while also quickly and concisely going over the topics of race realism, average IQs, and things that lead to violent behavior. But let's start at the beginning. What is race realism anyway? Well, race realism is kind of just common sense. It is simply acknowledging that there are genetic differences between different racial groups. People rarely dispute this when it comes to physical attributes, probably because it's too obvious for people to deny. For example, Dutch people are genetically taller than Koreans. Black people have darker skin than whites. These are differences and they're caused by genetics. But when we examine differences in intelligence and behavior, that's when people tend to freak out, like what we've been seeing lately. The people who deny race realism or the fact that IQ varies depending on race or background, they're just being timid PC pussies. In reality, it's unrealistic to think that every group would be equally good at everything. That's just not how evolution works. Now, to be fair, these observed differences are not entirely nature or nurture. They're a combination. But it is important for us to explore all the factors together in a constructive way. Shutting down discussions about genetics like this just pushes more people into the fringes, and it's not constructive for the discussion.
In the book of IQ and the Wealth of Nations, it talks about the IQ of the average sub-Saharan African being at 80. The IQ of an African American is normally at 85. White populations in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Europe, South Africa, and the United States score really close to one another, being at around 100.
Now let's talk about IQ, intelligence quotient. This has been the main focus of this current discussion, but I don't think anyone really cared to explain or talk about what IQ is anyway. It's really not the same thing as intelligence or being smart. The way I've always understood it, IQ measures your aptitude or talent. That's your natural ability to learn or gain knowledge. You're born with it. Actual intelligence or smarts, on the other hand, that's knowledge and skills you've learned over time. And that's really how you would rank how smart a person is in the real world. For example, a low IQ person can become a genius if they study and try hard enough. And on the flip side, a high IQ person can amount to shit if they don't apply their learning abilities to school or field work. No, not that field work. Lord gon' pick a bale of cotton. God, that's racist. So right from the start on this IQ discussion, the whole idea of IQ has been misconstrued. This idea that saying blacks are lower IQ on average makes them dumb and inferior is just flawed. It's coming from knee-jerk defensive reactions from black people, and it's coming from timid, cucked up white people who are too afraid to admit these truths and offend people. It's funny how the edgy skeptic YouTubers turn into SJWs as soon as you start talking about the differences between races. These recent debunking videos of RageAfterStorm have been laughable at best. They provide no evidence and use straw men against her. For example, she never brings up superiority or inferiority at all. She's mostly talking about IQ and intelligence. On average. They also like to attack Rage's sources, rather than talk about the scientific facts. But guys, come on, it doesn't matter what shitty sources may have been listed. A lot of the points Rage made have truth to them. And if the nerds complain about sources ever cared to look, there are plenty out there that support what Rage and other race realists are saying. The Bell Curve, for example, broached this subject over 23 years ago. This is the book that sparked much of this debate and controversy in the 90s. And it's not only about IQ related to genetics, it also covers environmental and socioeconomic factors. Now, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on this book here, but anyone who's been to college should have heard about this shit. And it's extremely troubling when most of the people attacking RageAfterStorm's points haven't even fucking heard of it.
But I honestly think that the subject matter is more important of an issue than this girl choosing bad sources. I mean, we all know the Daily Stormer is garbage, so.
Yeah.
But like, you know, the bell curve does not get a mention here, which is interesting.
So yeah, what's the bell curve? You know, I've heard about it. I was reading up a little bit on it yesterday when people were bringing up. Like, what is this exactly?
Sorry, Andy. I love you, bro, but that's pretty embarrassing. You can't talk about race realism without even knowing what the hell the bell curve is. And second, Clancy appears to be missing the point in his video today, too.
A YouTuber by the name of RageAfterStorm made a video called Race is Real, in which he tries to say that the general IQ difference between blacks and whites, as well as violence and crime rates, is not due to environmental factors, but to genetic factors.
And look, these guys are my bros, and they've both been on the show here before, so you know me calling them out means something. They know nothing about this topic and are most likely having timid, knee-jerk reactions to the realization that black people are lower IQ on average. Fortunately, Andy appears to have figured it out in the rest of his live stream from a few days ago. But Clancy came out with this shit video today, a few hours ago, so I don't know what his excuse is. It's probably because he's vegan and his brain isn't getting enough Naruto nutrients. Sorry, bro. Next, let's go back to Andy Worski's live stream about this for another minute, which I'm gonna link with all the other videos below. After they get past the average IQ thing, which we all have here now, the next step is to address the implications of a group having lower IQ. And this is another point people hated on Rage about too. Does low IQ lead to more violent, destructive behaviors? Probably, and this is another point where people will love to call you a racist for recognizing it.
With higher IQ, you're more likely to reach diplomatic solutions and use intelligence to create solutions that are equitable for everyone, whereas populations with lower IQ might not be able to do that. They might have to resort to using violence, warfare, things like that.
Also in that stream, AIU brings up a great point here with Andy. Blacks genetically have higher testosterone. There's no scientist or legitimate doctor out there who would deny this. And higher T leads to more aggressive, violent behaviors. This is why men fight more than women on average. More T. And so, it's part of the reason blacks resort to violence more on average. Higher testosterone. Combine that with lower IQ and now we're starting to get somewhere.
No, I think your natural level of testosterone is just based on genetics. That I'll agree with.
The last part of this equation really seals the deal. A lot of American blacks have a chip on their shoulders about race, especially against white people. I mean, let's be real here. If you're white, you're on the defensive. Now, I'll admit the black inferiority complex makes sense sometimes. There's been a long history of racism here, and it's very hard to get past and forget about that. But this chip on their shoulder also causes a lot of them to have this inferiority complex. This makes black people defensive and likely to lash out on people who bring up shit like lower IQ. And on the flip side, this anger and animosity certainly isn't coming from the top down. Besides the occasional white supremacist, no one is coming at this argument from a superiority complex. Whites, Jews, and Asians who are at the top of the IQ spectrum, they're not claiming to be superior here to feel better. We're just looking at studies and acknowledging facts. No, it's the black community on the bottom of the IQ range. They're the ones who want to deny this shit even exists. They're denying science because they're so worried about looking inferior. And it's a little sad. There's nothing wrong with admitting your race or gender is lower in something on average. Asians are shorter, whites are paler, girls are weaker, and men are the best. That's not a good example. What I'm trying to say here is this whole debate is kind of a non-controversy, if you will. The only real problem here is some people are scared to admit scientific facts because it may hurt other people's feelings. And all I have to say to that is, grow the fuck up. In the end, race is real, genetics are real, and genes that provide high intelligence are real, and they're concentrated in white and Asian populations. That's why the world's greatest civilizations have developed in Europe, North America, and Asia, and not Africa. I know some people are uncomfortable stating or hearing that, but I'm not. I live in the real world and I hardly care who the fuck I might offend. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Is race realism a thing? Is it racist to confirm facts like Africans have lower IQ than white Americans? What do you think about Rage After Storm? Comment below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time. And don't forget, this show is funded and supported by viewers like you. Like, comment, and subscribe for new videos every week. Hit that bell button below to get email notifications of our new uploads. We also have merchandise such as shirts, sweaters, stickers, and coffee mugs in our Teespring store. Join our Patreon to support monthly for as low as $1. You can get bonus videos and all kinds of cool stuff. There's also Amazon affiliate links and all of our other links in the description below. Thanks again for watching and supporting.
One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me.
One more thing, I want to give a special thanks to these amazing Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. You guys went above and beyond the rest, and I love you so much for it. If anyone else wants to donate or join our Patreon crew, link in the description. We're going to be setting up more videos and live streams very soon. Thanks again.
So when one of his black liberal Twitter followers said, "She is a self-loathing Uncle Tom," the very same black YouTuber who opposed being called a coon and white supremacist supporter by Tariq Nasheed agreed with his black Twitter follower by saying, "I mean, this is the first time that term can be used correctly."